Welcome back into the GSMC Sports Podcast, headed into our final segment of the day, and I wanted to have some conversations about the greater NBA playoffs picture. Just on the other side of the break, I was talking about Jokic winning the MVP award, third time in his career, and I wanted to sort of continue on that conversation, considering the fact, again, totally unfair in my eyes, that the NBA waits until the second round of the playoffs to make these types of award announcements, but does have an interesting conversation about the fact that Jokic is currently down the way that he is, and all of a sudden it feels like there has been this massive turn in the way that people are viewing this Nuggets run here, where last year they did somewhat benefit from playing some underachieving teams on the way into the postseason. And again, I'm not necessarily saying that this is totally, it is unfair inherently, that the Nuggets are being sort of thrown in this category of a lot of these other teams. It feels like NBA fans are just so quick to sort of turn the page on a team if it doesn't seem legitimate in their eyes. I feel like I haven't seen a title that was more disrespected than that 2021 Bucks finals, where I had so much fun watching the Giannis domination through that playoff run, and then all of a sudden a couple years later it is just looked down upon, and if Kevin Durant's foot wasn't on the line, if we saw the if we saw the full version of Brooklyn with Kyrie and James Harden both playing all of those games, they never would have won. It's interesting how people always find ways to put asterisks on these championships, and it seems like the Nuggets are now a little bit at a point here where you look at their postseason run last year and they didn't play a single team that won 50 games in the playoffs. The first round, they faced a 42-win Timberwolves team that was also without Jaden McDaniels for whatever it's worth. Then a 45-win Suns team that was dealing with this Kevin Durant injury, or it was more so that the team just had no cohesion up to that point, and then ended up getting a 7th-seeded Lakers team that won 43 games in the regular season in the Western Conference Finals. And again, I want to preface the fact that I am not making any types of claims. I'm just laying out facts here. And then, of course, playing a 44-win 8th-seeded Heat team in the finals. And they looked absolutely dominant during this run. But the Timberwolves, in their current state, are far better than any other team they have faced up to this point. Now, I don't think that the fact you play who you play, and it is just one of those things where I don't like to play this revisionist history by any means. I was on the Nuggets all year this year as well. I thought, and I still weirdly kind of do feel like they are, I don't know, it's hard to say that they're fully better than the Timberwolves right now or the Celtics, but they handled their business against the Celtics during the regular season, who were, historically good from a net rating perspective in the regular season. And, they were fine against the Wolves as well, and now obviously trailing 2-0, seems like their season is on the brink here, especially if they don't steal both of these games in Minnesota. But I just feel like it's going to be very interesting where Jokic's legacy all of a sudden, and again, recency bias is just hitting like an MFer right now, but the fact that we see all of these people coming to now criticize Jokic of winning these 3 MVPs, but having, this one fake run in people's eyes, it's a shame how this is how NBA discourse works. I swear that people don't actually enjoy watching these games. They just like tearing down players that don't play for their team. It drives me nuts personally, but there is definitely a legacy thing in the balance here for the Nuggets. And now we want to sort of switch gears with that same idea to the Boston Celtics moving forward, there are plenty of people now who are already... Boston radio is one of the most unbearable things. As somebody who lives in the Massachusetts area, I hear a lot of it. And yesterday, one of the big networks was talking about how it just feels hollow the way that the Celtics run has played out up to this point, that they're, beating down on these weaker opponents, and there are other people in the fans of teams in the Eastern Conference saying, oh, well, it's so unfair. The Celtics have this cakewalk. Well, they went out and they got the 1 seed for a reason. It wasn't just to have fun in the regular season. It was to put themselves in the best possible situation in the playoffs, which is the same situation with the Nuggets last year. You play who you play, and obviously it's more fun when you have these epic matchups along the way, but ultimately these teams they're not making these runs in order for PR purposes. They're trying to win a championship. So that's already a storyline that is sort of surrounding the Celtics, and added on with the fact that the Knicks are dealing with this OG Anunoby injury. We don't know the full details on him just yet. Like we mentioned earlier in the show, he was dealing with a left hamstring injury during the third quarter that kept him out for the rest of the game. Jalen Brunson's foot, for whatever it's worth. I mean, I think that ideally, knock on wood, he's going to be okay. He was able to play the second half and was great down the stretch in that game as well. But an already thin Knicks team that's dealing with a lot of injuries, feels like the Celtics have a chance, at least, to sort of go through the Eastern Conference without much of a sweat, which does lead to this bigger conversation of, especially with the fact that the Nuggets were the team that they were definitely most afraid of coming into the playoffs. They might be eliminated this round. Does feel like the pressure is really heating up for the Celtics to not go out and win this year. And, even after dominating the Cavaliers in their matchup from the other night, it was, oh, well, the Celtics didn't look good enough in this 25-point win. Jason Tatum didn't score enough points, even though I do think he had a very nice, well-rounded performance outside of some of the chucking up threes and the lack of efficiency scoring-wise. He still had a good game in my eyes, and, the pressure cooker is just absolutely on for the Celtics right now, and it feels like the front office is going to move forward with this group, but it does become a little bit of an interesting conversation. If this isn't the year for them, when is it going to come? And I ultimately, again, think that the idea here should be to continue on with the group. They are in that second luxury tax threshold where all of these other moves are restricted for them. So it is pretty much just leaning on the players that they have. I think, the top 8 is a very solid core for them, fully healthy. Their starting lineup, and then Al Horford, Sam Hauser, and Peyton Pritchard off of the bench. I think that should all work. And, when you look at the Nuggets and their current situation, I think I mentioned this quote the other day, but the decision makers for the Nuggets, when they were talking about their plan in this past offseason, it was about, our goal isn't to repeat as champions, it's to become a dynasty. So we saw them sort of invest more so into their youth with getting Peyton Watson more looks, Christian Brown as well. They traded down a little bit to add a couple other pieces to their roster, Julian Strawther and Hunter Tyson, who haven't really been getting playing time for them, but it's the idea of sort of developing them and having them sort of fit into the puzzle. For the Celtics here, they have that whole starting lineup other than Derek White, where it sounds like Brad Stevens, their general manager, is committed to making sure that he comes back long-term for them. Seems like they are trying to, build into what they have now and this continued development. Peyton Pritchard was a late first-round pick. Sam Hauser, I believe, was a second-round pick. I am fully admitting here that I have a little bit of the Boston bias. Very, very much looking forward to see if Jordan Walsh can turn into anything, because I loved him at Arkansas, and I think that he has actually a very solid ceiling that was overshadowed because of the fact that he was sharing so much time with more of score-first guards that ended up being first-round picks last year, Nick Smith Jr. and Anthony Black. But I do like the track that the Celtics are on. That's not something that is any sort of a hot take whatsoever. But I just feel like it is sort of... I wanted to take a look at some of these bigger picture deals for the Celtics and the Nuggets. And then, for the Timberwolves, it seems like they have their core pretty much locked up as well. Now, things are going to get interesting for them. I talked about this the other day, this idea of how are they going to sort of situate this Gobert situation and balancing it with Naz Reid. Right now, they are paying these three centers a good amount of money, and we're going to see both Naz Reid and Rudy Gobert end up having player options in the same offseason in 2025-26. I would imagine both of them are going to decline that. The Timberwolves gave up all of these assets for Rudy Gobert, and listen, if they win the championship this year or next year, it makes that decision to walk away from him a whole lot easier. But we know with some of these general managers, and by the way, had no idea, I believe his name is Tim Connolly, is the general manager for the Minnesota Timberwolves right now. He's at least on the front office staff there, that he was also the one to build up this Nuggets team, and now he's built up this team that is perfectly tailored to take out the Nuggets. I mean, just a ridiculous subplot there that I had no idea about until it came across my timeline on social media the other day. But just sort of as a funny side note, the Timberwolves, I don't know. Ultimately, it's Anthony Edwards. It seems like he is definitely in prime position to be one of the faces of the league, if not the guy for the NBA. And he has a chance to establish that this year with the NBA Finals. And I don't have all the details, so I definitely don't want to, put any type of damning on the Timberwolves, especially as they're having this awesome run. But in terms of assets moving forward, they are maybe a little bit more limited in my eyes than the Nuggets and the Celtics. But these are the three teams right now, and I think that it's going to be really fun to see how all of this shakes out for them. I think that, again, probably looking now at a Timberwolves-Celtics finals, but even if you throw the Thunder into that conversation, I don't think they would have the size to match up against the Timberwolves in the Western Conference Finals if we're sort of looking ahead there. But, if the Nuggets get eliminated, the last thing I'll say is, should be really fun. We're going to see a brand new team win a finals. Pacers, Knicks, take your pick. Celtics, sorry Cavs fans, I don't really include you in this conversation, but one of those three. And then Timberwolves, could see Luka and the Mavericks pull off some type of comeback, and the Oklahoma City Thunder with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. This whole idea of next face of the NBA and the way that we've seen all of these, past generation greats eliminated early in the postseason this year could give us a little bit more of a clear picture as to what the future of the NBA looks like. And just as an NBA nerd, I'm definitely looking forward to it. But that is all we have for today. Thank you very much for tuning into the GSMC Sports Podcast. Thank you to our guests today, Jeremy Lapidus, Sports by GSMC. We had Sam Menzie as well. He is going to be coming on very shortly, live at 3:30, so definitely check him out. Baseball podcast, and Garrison as well is the hockey/golf podcast. I believe he's doing golf today, so check him out later tonight as well. Going to be doing a lot more collaborative projects as we move on here. Super fun, super exciting stuff to see. But thank you very much for tuning in. We are live every 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern, so check us out tomorrow. Be sure to like, follow, subscribe wherever you keep up with us. And check us out on social media as well for our exclusive short content. But that is all we have for today. Take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet. Damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go.